Is there anything we can talk about it? I'm trying to
trying to dig.
I think
Tom.
maybe not the case. Straight in.
Deep end. There you go. What? I mean, I don't know how much I was supposed to say, but you know,
Tell us everything.
Well, all of the secrets. I just hope nobody watched it.
Hello, we're back with another MBUK podcast. I'm Tom Marvin here, of course, with Rob Weaver. How you doing, Rob?
I'm good, thanks, Tom. How are you?
I'm all right. It's the first one of a new year.
It is.
We're sitting on a lot of Christmas dinners and a few pints of beer, but
New year, new me.
New year, new you.
Probably the same.
Same old.
Bit older.
We're here today with Georgia Leslie. So Georgia is, well, she's got a job title that I can't quite remember, but it includes Europe, it includes lead, and I believe it might have included marketing. Do you want to tell us who you are?
I am Georgia Leslie and the category marketing lead for mountain for Europe.
For specialised bikes.
For specialised, sorry, that's
we'll get that.
I mean,
not just all of Europe, for everything.
All of Europe, for every brand, every
all of it. Yeah.
I am just Europe.
Good job.
Yeah, and I know hello in 4 languages.
Do you want to?
Guten Tag.
Nice.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Hola.
Hola.
Ciao. Thank you, Tom. Nice. That's all I've got. Sorry.
And you can see why Georgia is the head of Europe.
Absolutely. That's my New Year's resolution. Learn all of the languages.
Oh, easy, yeah.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk to Georgia, obviously a little bit about yourself, because you've got sort of quite a meteoric rise through the bike industry, quite an interesting little story. But of course, you work for Specialized, one of the biggest bike companies in the world. Perhaps sometimes thought of as a slightly faceless corporation, but we think that maybe not the case.
Got straight in there, didn't you? Oh my God.
Deep end, there you go. Yeah, no, absolutely not. You know, Mike Sinyard goes to the office.
There we go.
Still, every single day, and he's in his 70s, which is pretty cool. And he's still involved in all of the meetings. It's pretty...
He did come riding on the launch, didn't he?
He did.
For that bike.
Yeah, for that bike.
Yeah, he was out every day.
And he was shredding too.
Yeah.
Still heavily involved. It's very... Yeah, a lot of people have been in Specialized a really long time and are still so passionate about it. It's definitely not like people sitting behind a computer popping out bikes.
Great. Well, should we start at the beginning?
Yeah, how did you get into bikes in the first place?
Oh, I didn't really have a choice. But I'm not complaining. I think it was my dad's fault. I think he had a plan. He's like, how can I get cheap bikes for the rest of my life? My daughter.
Nice.
Yeah. No, my parents were very into bikes from, all their life, I guess. So as soon as I could walk, I was on a bike. Actually, before that, my dad had like a little trailer that was like imported from Canada. My auntie lived in Canada. So they used to like ride me around everywhere from a couple months old in the trailer. And then, I was basically forced onto a bike as soon as I could walk, which I'm not complaining about because it worked out all right. And the rest was history, really.
But it was always mountain bikes?
It was always mountain bikes until I got to about 14. And then I got on a road bike and thought that was the best thing ever for about 6 months. Didn't last very long. And then back to mountain bikes. And I do dabble with a little bit of road now.
Okay.
But
Bit of road and bit of gravel, sort of.
I have done. Yeah. I did one cross race and that was it. Yeah. So I'll pretend.
Box ticked.
Yeah, exactly. Won't be going back. That was painful. Yeah.
Nice. How did you then go from it being a hobby to working at one of the biggest brands in the world?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a interesting story, I suppose.
Okay.
Well, I started working at a bike shop at 14, which is definitely not allowed.
So probably don't name them.
So I won't name them. But I started working at a bike shop at 14, just, weekends and holidays and all that. And then one of the boys that I worked with got a job at Specialized because it was kind of local. It was only down the road. And I'd been at the bike shop, I think, till I was 18. And I was supposed to go to uni, had my place and everything. Deferred the year because I was like, have a gap year, do some travelling. Anyway, I did. I ended up getting a job at Specialized during that year, basically shipping boxes in and out of the warehouse. And I was like, I'll do it for a couple months, then I'll go to uni. Well, nearly 10 years later, and I am
head of Europe.
I am still there. Well, I am Europe. No, I'm still there. So it's I didn't end up going to uni, obviously. I went from shipping boxes in and out of the warehouse, like looking after our demo fleet, shipping out bikes to journalists, looking after events, and then I've done quite a few different things. And now I'm here. So it's been a really cool experience to be involved in so many different parts of the business and get to learn so many different aspects of it and kind of end up here.
Have most of those roles been sort of more on the marketing side, or?
I suppose, yeah, because I went from that to running our demo fleet. We had like 200 bikes in a demo fleet that would get shipped out to retailers every week. So that was like working with our mechanics and stuff and getting the bikes ready to get turned around again and shipping out like 30 bikes every week, which was pretty crazy for test rides and stuff. And then looking after our events, and which was good fun. Lots of them very wet and cold.
Yep.
But we live in England, so it's to be expected.
Part of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, moved into doing PR stuff and then brand manager. And then we've had a bit of a restructure and transformation within the business. And now I've got a slightly different role.
So what does your role involve now? Because it sounds very grand.
It does, I know. I definitely don't know if I should be here. Imposter syndrome is real.
No.
But yeah, I look after marketing for the mountain bike side for Europe. So working with all the kind of European countries and for bike launches, campaigns, delivering assets, etc. So it's very new. I've only just started. And we're learning because it's a completely new department. So it's kind of a learning process.
But it's a big role.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Should we just point that out a few more times? That's a real big role, George.
Yeah, you should be really stressed about that.
Yeah, so we'll see. So hopefully everyone just keeps riding mountain bikes in Europe and we'll be good.
Easy.
Yeah.
Should be fun.
Yeah.
Just loads of emails, right?
Lots of emails. Yeah. But lots of travelling and stuff, which is cool. So hopefully, I mean, last year was a big travel year.
Okay.
Because we had quite a few launches and projects which were going on. So that was quite cool. So
any favourites? Any favourite locations or best bikes launched last year? Stumpy.
Of course. I mean, you came out to the launch in Canada. I mean, being in Canada was pretty bloody cool anyway.
Yeah.
Didn't see any bears though, which was quite disappointing. But, we'll see. That bike, that bike's amazing. And it was a really fun project to be part of.
How important is a bike like that for your brand?
Well, that's literally our bread and butter.
Okay.
Like that, the Stump Jumper name, the heritage of that platform. I think when you came, we had like the original bike there, and it's so cool to see how it's evolved and how it still kind of is doing what it was doing when it was born, sort of thing. So, but just with amazing innovation, and Genie being, kind of came out with that bike last year, and that's massive, and it now is available on the Levi Sale, and it will be on bikes to come.
So that's the new shock, isn't it?
That's the new shock, yeah. Genie suspension.
So of all the different bits within your role, what would you say is the favourite? Obviously, getting to Canada's quite a perk.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
Of the sort of the day-to-day, which are the bits that you really enjoy? Is there any particular area that's really good?
Working with you guys.
You can come back.
Yeah. No, being involved in the launches and that side of it's really exciting. Because obviously we know what's coming way in advance. But when it gets to the point where that product is, when you see the prototypes and stuff, it's amazing and they look so different, and then it evolves to become something that's like really beautiful, and the innovation and R&D that goes on behind it, when you see it kind of come to life and journalists ride it for the first time and hopefully have a really amazing experience on it. That's really cool to see. And it's amazing when the product managers and the engineers are there as well, and they get to kind of, have those conversations with you guys and get to see like all of their hard work, which is hopefully comes out in some pretty cool product.
I mean, I guess you've been around for probably 3 generations worth of Stumpies now. Is that roughly it? I mean, obviously we sort of get to know a lot of people in different companies, but you've been with Spesh for so long that it must be quite nice to sort of see that sort of development of a brand, of a name, of a bike.
Definitely. It's really funny when, like you said, I've been at Specialized almost 10 years, which is crazy. So I have seen quite a few different iterations. And when you look back to when you started, of what those bikes even just looked like, or you look back at pictures, and at that time you're like, that was the coolest shit ever.
Yeah, and it dates, doesn't it? Yeah.
And now looking back, you're like, oh my God, like, do you see what that bike looks like? Or the colours that we had or whatever. And it's like, it's really cool to see everything still progressing so much.
Yeah.
And that technology is still evolving and everything's changing, especially on the e-bike side. Like, it's very cool to see how, especially on the e-bike side, how quickly it changes.
Yeah.
But yeah, being a part of that and seeing the teams with working on stuff so far ahead and what they're coming out with, and you're like, wow, that looks so futuristic. And then when it actually comes out, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's just a bit of a behind the scenes of.
Yeah. And what does what does that life cycle of a product look like? Sort of how far in advance you're getting a concept, or the guys or whoever's behind the R&D and stuff, they're getting a concept down.
Yeah.
What does it look like, that journey through to production?
What? I mean, I don't know how much I was supposed to say, but you know,
Tell us
when
everything.
all of the secret, like maybe just nobody watched it. You know, sorry.
We will.
Everyone watched it.
At least 3 of us will.
when you guys came and rode that for the first time, and it was, you know, a month away from launching, the product team are already working on the next one. Like, It's that far in advance. So when you ride that for the first time and it maybe hasn't even launched to the public yet, and you've got little snippets of this or that, or I thought it was going to have this or whatever, that's all kind of, I guess, feedback for the product teams that are starting to develop concepts and starting to look at what the next one would look like and actually what can we change and make it even better. So when you ride it for the first time and think that it's hopefully amazing and that technology's like, you know, come on so far and they're already working on the next thing, I think that is just, it blows my mind of the kind of the R&D that actually goes on behind it. And like that trickles down so much from the downhill scene, and you've all seen hopefully what the Gravity team are riding and racing on, and all of that technology that we're kind of testing out is almost like the Formula One of mountain biking, and stuff they test and use on those products trickles down to, you know, these bikes that people can actually buy. So the suspension and everything. So.
And does it work from cross country up as well?
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So and all of those, I guess touching on the race side, all of our racers are so heavily involved in product and like testing it out way in advance and all the different prototypes and stuff like that, so that when we do come out with something for the public, it's, you know, it is the best of the best. And those people have ridden it, and there's so much feedback that goes, and so many different countries as well that bikes are tested in, so that it's not just like they're built in California. Because
you've got a new development centre, right, for mountain bikes?
Yeah, in Auburn.
Yeah.
So everything, the headquarters of Specialized, I suppose, is California in Silicon Valley, which it has been forever.
Nice and cheap place to move out to. Yeah.
Oh yeah, really cheap.
Easy, yeah.
Yeah. But that, being completely honest, isn't necessarily the best place for mountain biking. Because the nearest place I think is like Santa Cruz, which is not too far away. But yeah, we've got a new innovation centre in Auburn, which is like an R&D facility, which is where...
Where's that, sorry?
Auburn, I don't know.
In America?
It's like 3 hours from the office in Morgan Hill-ish.
North?
On the way to Tahoe.
Oh, okay.
America's a big place.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can
really
put a map in there, right, Max?
Auburn is here.
Yeah. Good job. Well done. He's already done it, yeah.
Love
Good
it.
job.
But the mountain bike in there is amazing, and I think, you know, the team can ride from the door with loads of different kind of places to go and different styles of riding. And that team goes to so many different locations on so many different terrains to kind of come out with something that isn't just built and designed using kind of one area as such. So the complete kind of off-road team has moved out there. So it's our off-road innovation centre as such.
And it's a great team as well. Like, I've known some of those guys for a long time, and they are seriously incredible bike riders, but also very, very intelligent. They know how to put a bike together, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And like I was touching on earlier, a lot of people have been at Specialized for a long time, but it's still their passion, their hobby. And like you said, they are amazing riders. Like so much of that team out there have been at Specialized for so many iterations of so many different bikes. But they are, still incredible riders. And some of them have got World Cup backgrounds and, you know, they really are amazing. And we've got a couple of younger guys coming in and on the suspension side. And I mean, coming out with Jeannie is pretty incredible.
And mentored by people like Mick McAndrews. Yeah. Absolute legend.
Absolutely. And there's so many of them. It's really cool, and they spend so much time out on the bikes testing so many different things that if you go there, like prototypes everywhere, it's pretty crazy.
Is there a point that the marketing team sort of get involved with the product development? I mean, you guys are sort of on the ground in your individual countries, you kind of know what people are buying, what people are looking for. Do you get to feed into that? So they're not making a bike for a specific market that's not going to do well elsewhere?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I have quite a lot of calls with the product team from a UK perspective, and I know that all around the world they're in touch with everyone, the product managers. So there's product managers per like category, I suppose, of bikes. So they're very much in touch with markets, and they travel so much. Like their schedules are crazy. We're just traveling different countries, going to shops, speaking to real people, speaking to, because we talk a lot about California, but there are offices and locations in every single country pretty much, around the world. So, and they are, people in those offices are all riders too. So they know, what's happening in their countries and their local scenes around everywhere. So it's very much a collaborative, I suppose, in a sense of trends and stuff like that. And testing as well. And that, especially for the e-bikes, testing for the e-bikes is a worldwide thing rather than just in one location.
But there is a hub for that, right? In Switzerland?
Yeah, in Switzerland. Yeah. So our Turbo office is in Switzerland.
It's probably the best name for an office as well. Turbo.
Yeah.
The Turbo office.
I mean, our office has got a pretty cool name, but
Eagle
Turbo,
House.
Eagle House.
Yeah. Turbo is pretty cool.
It is pretty amazing. And those engineers working on that side is just, the e-bikes. I mean, like you were saying earlier, the technology is so fast paced and the innovation on the e-bike side. So our Turbo office is in Switzerland, and they can ride like straight out the door into some obviously amazing stuff. So.
Straight uphill.
Yep.
Nice.
Levo's managed by the Swiss office, right?
So the e-bike side is a strange one.
Okay.
Because like Buck, who you know very well, been at Specialized forever, amazing rider. He is based in the US.
Yep.
And he's the product manager for Levo Russell, etc. And then the kind of, I guess, the electronic side and the turbo systems is more Switzerland. So it's like a combined effort. And then obviously the ride dynamics team is in Auburn, and that's kind of a lot about the suspension and
kind of the ride feel, right?
Right, yeah. So it's very much a joined up effort for everything. So like the ride dynamics team will work on all mountain bike platforms. But then each, again, will have a product manager who'll kind of lead.
And an engineering group that are kind of behind it. Okay.
Yeah.
So like, obviously Specialized has had Levos for quite a while, and you guys are one of the first to like properly integrate batteries and motors into a bike that looked like a bike. I sort of remember we did a feature years and years ago now where we took 3 different e-bikes up Snowdon on an adventure just to sort of see what you could do. And we'd had a couple of bikes around, with external batteries and big motors, and they were all sort of compromised. But because everything was so new, we were like, wow, this is amazing. So
it was novel, wasn't it?
It
was fun. It was really fun.
And then I think the day before we went up to North Wales, we got a Levo in the workshop, and we sort of pulled it out and we were like, oh shit, this is what an e-bike kind of should look like, because the battery was sort of hidden in the down tube. Okay, the down tube was big, so you knew where it was, but like the whole thing just looked kind of like a mountain bike, as opposed to a mountain bike with some stuff bolted onto the top of it.
Definitely. I think the first Levo was in 2015. I'm pretty sure. So that's almost, around then, almost 10 years ago. And like you said, it came with the integrated battery and everything. And I think that's Specialized whole ethos. And, with the innovation teams and the R&D that goes in behind it, always like to make an amazing bike first and then have a system that works with that. So it's not like trying to build a bike around a system. It's making sure that we have an incredible platform, suspension, frame, engineering, etc. So it's an amazing bike first, e-bike second, if you know what I mean. That's kind of.
I mean, I guess Specialized has always been quite an innovative company. Like, every sort of generation of bike seems to come with something that is like special to that model. So obviously Genie Shock on this, the original Levo with its integration, going 29, 6 fatty, all that sort of stuff. But that seems to have been a thing that goes all the way back and runs through the drop bars. You've got the Crux XTR with the STR with a little shock.
Oh, the Divergence,
And the SX Trail.
And totally. So it's just like innovation after innovation, and everything has something. And I guess there'll be some people who sort of think, oh, it's just proprietary stuff is a bit annoying. But like actually the vast majority of that kind of does something that you want to do because you want to make a good mountain bike first, right? Yeah,
definitely. And that's the ethos of everything. It's making an amazing mountain bike first. and, the team working on the Genie suspension and adding that to these platforms. And, you could say a lot of mountain bike look very similar, but actually what is it inside the bike that makes it as amazing as it is? Like that shock has on paper 145 mil of travel, but it actually has more usable travel than the previous Subjumper Evo. So it's like, just things like that actually can transform a ride, or just that step of innovation that maybe other brands will follow, who knows.
What was cool when we did the Stumpy launch was that you guys provided us with pretty much everything. In terms of stats, you backed everything up with data. There was graphs, everything was explained and showed how you you basically showed your workings out. Yeah,
totally. And, the innovation centers and the teams that we've got can put so much data against these systems. Like the telemetry systems that they run for testing are crazy. And I was fortunate enough to go out to Canada to do some of the testing on Genie before it came out on Stumpy. And I was the lightest rider that had been involved in the testing process. So the guys found it really interesting because all the, everything, the numbers were all different. And I hadn't ridden it before. And I did back-to-back runs at Prevost on Genie and standard shocks. And instantly, it was the first time I'd ridden it, and I could instantly tell the difference. Like less bottom out, the travel felt so much longer. And all of the data, when we looked at it at the end of the day, backed everything up. And for them it was interesting because they do this stuff every single day and they know what they're doing to the suspension, so when it has that outcome they're kind of expecting that. And then when I got on it knowing nothing about kind of really what they've actually done to it, and not knowing a huge amount of when it comes to testing and stuff like that, and when I kind of got to the bottom of the run and I was just like, oh my god, it feels like it's got so much more travel. Oh, I didn't bottom out, blah, blah, where I bottomed out on the previous run on the other shock. They were like, oh my God, it backs up everything that we've been testing and what the data's been showing us. And the data, again, backed that up. So, it's an interesting process.
There's no sort of confirmation bias in that. How important is it to get, for those guys? I've sort of often had this thought with bike development and products and stuff, obviously to get pro riders in to ride it and like, and they'll shred it like dead fast and stuff.
Yeah.
But actually 99% of people who buy the bikes probably can't ride as fast as Bruni.
That's why it was so good having me doing it.
So that's what I mean.
Like down.
You're like a real good rider, but like how important is it to get everyday riders involved in the process? Do everyday riders get involved in the process?
So they've got, not everyday riders, when it comes to, obviously you couldn't get people on like prototypes and stuff like that, but the testing team, yes, it's our racers, and we have amazing riders that do test it out, but it also is the team's kind of friends and stuff like that. They do have a group of people that they, or like different groups for different platforms and stuff that they do seed stuff out to, that kind of are different weights and riding styles and stuff, and that is really important. Like me being one of the lightest people to test that out. I know that you've struggled before with getting suspension set up right, being a lighter rider. And it is difficult when bikes come with kind of standard settings that actually don't work for lighter riders, and you have to get everything tuned. And Genie being so easy to tune as well, I don't know. It was great for me being a lighter rider and being able to get on it and it kind of working straight away.
Is it quite normal for people from different bits of the specialised company to get involved in quite specific bits of it, like your marketing, right, for Europe? So for you to be involved in the sort of the development of the Genie shock doesn't seem like that's a natural fit for you to be doing. Is it quite normal to get those opportunities?
Yeah, it is definitely. And like we've got guys in the UK that are like market developers, area reps kind of thing, and they're testing motors and testing e-bike systems and stuff like that. So it's riders that are riders, people that specialise that are real riders, and there's so many of them, but again are testing in so many different locations. Like over here we've got a lot of wet and a lot of mud, so testing stuff over here is very different to riding it in California. And again, we've got people in South Africa, in every country, trying out different stuff that aren't, that's not a direct link to a product team at all. But it's just, I think what's cool about that is it shows that there really are real life riders that are behind the brand, and like 90% of us are.
Dispelling your first comment and
rude.
How rude.
Take it back, Tom.
A faceless corporation.
With so sorry to change the subject a little bit, but with Level and Level SL,
yes.
How is in terms of the divide at the minute? How are you seeing it representative in sales, for example? Are you doing more of one or the other? Or are they kind of even Stevens?
I mean, it's probably going to be as expected. Levo is the bike of choice.
Okay.
You know, being that kind of full powered, ride it for as long as you want kind of platform. Levo SL being is my favorite bike. I absolutely love my Levo SL. I think it's great. Rides like a normal bike, handles like a normal bike. You haven't got, the kind of the weight aspect of the full fat Levo as much. But yeah, sales are definitely weighted towards that kind of full fat for sure. But you have got the kind of SL diehard trail riders. I guess it's just a battery thing when you've got slightly heavier riders that doesn't necessarily last as long, but range extenders,
I was going to ask a little bit about outside of the world of bikes for Specialized, because obviously everyone knows the bikes, but Specialized kit, like the P&A, the helmets, the shoes, the clothing, has also always been like quite high when it comes to sort of, group tests. It always does really well. Like, what's the story behind it? Is it a big team? Is it a smaller team?
The team for that side is definitely smaller than the bikes. But again, like the technology that goes into that stuff, like body geometry fit and having even just like the insoles for the shoes and stuff with the button for the metatarsal bones and stuff like that. Like there is so much that goes into it, and every product gets tested in the wind tunnel.
Right.
Which is
even
insoles. Like even those insoles. No, pretty much every product gets, because we've got a wind tunnel in California on site. So pretty much every product goes in the wind tunnel for testing. So there's so much that goes into, and that's not just bikes, that's, everything. And the helmets, the facilities and stuff like that. It's an incredible.
So I think that is it the Tactics? I can't remember which helmet it is. It's one of sort of the cheaper mountain bike helmets.
The Camber. I think it's the Camber.
Maybe Camber. It comes out on top of the Virginia Tech safety.
That's the Tactic, isn't it?
I think it's a Tactic, yeah. But
Seb wrote about it,
of course. But it's still, you're not a helmet brand, and yet you still pump out one of the best helmets around. You're not like a full gas clothing brand, and yet you still manage to pump out some of the best clothing, like the shoes, like that little button, like say for the metatarsal, genuinely makes a difference. Like it's just, and that's been around for a long time. Body geometry has been a thing since
2014.
This guy. God, I'm so fast. I didn't know that.
No, I was on the launch. I was on the launch for the shoes.
But it makes such a difference.
Well, maybe body geometry's predates
body geometry
that.
the saddle's been around a long time.
For the 2FO shoes, that was 2014.
Yeah.
Like
before mine.
It's like it's super impressive though. Like
you'd have been really young.
How you manage to sort of pump out all this stuff. It's really you're not a dedicated clothing company, and yet it's still some of the best.
Yeah, definitely. And that's because, there are teams, and again there's like testing in all countries for those products as well that go into behind the scenes. And it comes, especially with the Gravity team now racing on kind of full head to toe specialized product. And the kind of everything that goes into that and how they want the kits and it all trickles down into the product that people can buy. So it's there's so much testing, so there's so much facilities and everything that goes into it.
I mean, speaking of the Gravity team, can we move on to probably one of the most exciting looking bikes that's been around for the last couple of years? Is obviously the race bike that the Gravity team are on. Like it's pretty cool. It's pretty wild. It's kind of out there. Everyone sort of sees it and like, how's that done? All this sort of stuff. And there's been some really cool, like, there's leaked photos, there's pit bits and all that sort of stuff. But no one knows a huge amount about it.
Yeah.
Are we going to see that bike at some point?
That exact bike? Probably not.
Okay.
I think, like I touched on earlier, it's almost like the Gravity team and that bike is like the Formula One of mountain biking. So much is tested and tried and trialed on that bike with the team. Like they do so much testing on it and changing so many different aspects of it, and so much stuff that people wouldn't even notice, even if they did see the whole thing. But that technology is always trickles down into platforms that people can buy from what those guys are testing and what they're doing, because what they are doing is so extreme. The way that bike looks, I mean, imagine if some people look like that. Pretty wild. But so much testing goes on there, and they spend loads of time with the Ride Dynamics team, tweaking and testing and trying out different things. But the likelihood that you'll see that exact bike available to buy is,
slim.
Very slim. Yeah. Yeah.
But for you guys, I guess it's quite a good sort of marketing tool, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, by having the covers on some of the stuff, like that just creates so much intrigue. And when someone spots it without it on or something, it's like, what have they done? So that side of it is, it is a marketing tool essentially as well. But equally it is one of, if not the best downhill bike out there at the moment.
It's doing all right.
I think it's doing pretty good.
I mean, if it's doing so well, like, why not release it?
That is a very good question.
I guess that bike alone would cost a fortune though, right? If you were to release exactly what they've got.
Sure.
A bit like how the Pivot, the one that Bernard was racing versus the one that's been released is quite different.
Maybe there's something like that.
Also, think of all the parts that people would maybe need to buy. That bike is complicated.
Yeah.
I suppose from a manufacturing point of view, it teaches you quite a lot on how you can prototype rapidly and do things like that.
Yeah. Oh, the machines that the guys have out in Auburn, where they're just kind of, getting things out so quickly and changing it up and trying different things is, crazy. It's not like design something, wait for it to come back, weeks kind of on. It's just like, oh, let's try that. Done. Like it's on a bike ASAP and it's kind of being tested already. So it's very quick.
Yeah. How's the partnership with Öhlins? Because obviously one of the other sort of intriguing things, obviously the bike looks real cool, but they've also got these there's got the buttons and all that sort of stuff. Like it must be, obviously I'm sure we can't talk about it, but like, is there anything we can talk about it? I'm
trying to dig. Yeah, they're always testing different things.
Right. New
things, trying to make them faster, trying to get, because you know what it's like the times are so close now. It's any little thing that's going to make that, millisecond of a difference is being tested and being tried and being used.
Yeah.
So
I guess it's quite a long relationship with Öhlins on the downhill side of things, right?
Yeah.
And is that something that you're looking to? It's an ongoing thing.
Partnerships, yeah. Yeah.
Do you see Specialized staying involved in racing across downhill and XC?
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of like, almost where we came from. That racing heritage is so strong. And, like people like Ned are still involved in the brand. Like Ned still tests product and is heavily involved in Ned Overend.
Yeah.
For anyone, come on.
Bit of a legend.
Ned.
Yeah.
He's still involved in testing with the XC teams and he gets prototype product and, he's still massively a part of the brand. And Curtis Keane and everyone, like those people are still so heavily involved and racing. Yeah, racing is Specialized. We are racing. We've
talked about downhill, but we have to mention cross country as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, Specialized riders dominated the first couple of rounds in 2024. I was going to say this year, but it was last year. Yeah.
Not going to get used to that for a while.
So new bike, new Epic 8.
Yeah, Epic 8.
And you got the Epic Evo as well.
Yeah.
Those have kind of shifted away from maybe what cross-country bikes were 5-10 years ago, which were these terrifyingly fidgety, super stiff, almost like a road bike with flat bars on.
Long.
Yeah, exactly. And now they're kind of almost like trail bikes.
Yeah.
And have you seen that sort of reflection in terms of sales and stuff like that? Has it been quite successful for you?
Yes, it's an interesting one because, last year was such a huge year with Epic 8, Epic Evo, Stumpy, Chisel full suspension. Like it was such a huge year for new bikes. And like you said, the Epic Evo has got so much more extreme, but that is because the courses are so much more extreme. Like what they're racing on in Lycra now, I'm like, put some knee pads.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, Epic 8 has obviously got more extreme and is essentially what the Epic Evo was of old. And then the Epic Evo has kind of got even more extreme and dare I say it is down country.
Oui.
That's like a love-hate word, that one.
Yeah.
And it kind of sits in between the Stumpy and the Epic now. It's almost like a small trail bike.
It's kind of like what the Camber was a few years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Stumpy short travel.
So is that the courses changing what you guys are doing, or is that you kind of feeding into? Because I guess anytime I've been on a launch with the engineers and we've done Epic,
the
engineers would always be riding like an Evo Plus, if you want, with like a wider bar, shorter stem, longer travel fork, dropper post, all of those things that we've obviously seen come out on those bikes over the years, but they're like 3, 4, 5 years in advance.
Yeah.
So is it you guys kind of driving it, or is it kind of both?
I think it's kind of both. You know, like we've been saying earlier, that the guys in the team are so ahead of kind of what's coming and testing so many different things on that side. But then, like I just said, the courses have got so much more extreme and so much more gnarly that the bikes need to be more capable to deal with that stuff. And like the racers are just such amazing riders. Like the stuff that they can do and be so fit and so skilled, and it's like full round package and race for so long is crazy. And the bikes, you know, need to be the best of the best to deal with that, but also be the best of the best, but also be the lightest too. So it's, you know, those bikes are mind-blowing, really.
The work that must have gone into Epic 8 is seriously impressive.
But not even just the bike, like the wheels. You know, the new wheels that we came out with, the 5mm flat bead to be puncture-proof. Like, we've raced the Cape Epic for how many years now and not had one puncture. Like, and that is because of just the technology that's kind of in with the wheels and the tyres and that side of it. So, yes, there's so much innovation that goes on with the bikes, but a bit like you were saying with the P&A side was the same with wheels. Yeah. Like, I think a lot of people forget that we sell wheels too. Yeah. And, you know, they are also pretty good. So, yeah. so it's like, that side of it is, is cool too.
Nice. Before we move on though, enduro. Now, I think you went
Everyone wants to know this question.
Right. Well, you were on the last launch, right?
2019, Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
Launch of that. There was a Kenevo, there was that, and Epic HT.
Yes. It was a big launch. I think.
Big launch. 3 bikes in 3 days.
Tom was tired.
I was a tired boy.
And
I
you
was
were there.
lucky.
Yeah.
I was there because I had a broken wrist, so I didn't have to do the big days riding. I just did the lifted day on the enduro and rode down with a cast on. Yeah, it smelled so bad. It was real nice.
Good.
Yeah.
But that was the current Epic, sort of the current enduro that you go by now is the one that you launched in 2019. So it's been quite a long time since one.
With little like GDH updates and stuff, but
to all intent and purpose, same bike.
It is.
Is that because the bike's so good that you don't feel the need, or just it just takes a long time to develop a new one, or because obviously the world of enduro is changing as well, like big time,
massively, and like our enduro team have been riding the Stumpy, because you know that being so progressive has allowed them to sort of race that and it still be capable enough and still be their bike of choice. But yeah, the enduro has been a while. Things always being tested and tried. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there'll be something coming out at some point, but not in the
not in 2025.
Future. No, definitely not. So, but that is an interesting one, I guess, the enduro, because it's sort of, that's where it's very closely linked, I suppose, with the demo. Because if you're going to take anything from the demo and put it on something, the enduro is definitely going to be that kind
I guess
of
like a more sort
down.
of consumer-friendly bike, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, at the moment, it's the enduro as is. But, you know, things are always being tested and always being tried out. So,
do you see things like the rise of the e-bike cannibalizing sales of enduro bikes?
Well, that's exactly it. Like, you know, when the Levo comes out and you can put a 170 fork on it and ride around such a big bike that's so capable with a motor. Mm-hmm. Are you going to slog around your 170mm trail bike?
Yeah,
maybe not. And we just like, give it to me now.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But a lot of people went, you know, that's kind of why I think it was kind of put maybe on the back burner slightly, is because so many riders with this surge of e-bike rising, people were having that kind of similar experience, but with a motor and being able to just do laps on laps on laps without having to slog to the top or push to the top or whatever. And then maybe getting a short travel bike as their sort of analog option as well, rather than having a 170mm analog bike. So at 100%, the e-bikes have definitely had an impact on that.
One thing I did want to ask, and this is changing topics slightly again, but with the e-bike stuff, especially back when Levo was first introduced, did you have much internal conflict because of how a lot of the trails were illegal to ride in the US on an e-bike, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas over here, I think it was maybe a bit easier going.
Yeah.
Was there any pushback from the US office in terms of, we need to be pumping all this cash in, doing all this work in terms of innovation and all of that, to something that they couldn't potentially even ride in a lot of places?
That's a really interesting question, because it is so different. And like, I never really realised how different it is. But over there, you have to ride e-bikes on e-bike sanctioned trails. And it is obviously very different to being able to ride them over here. But that definitely never paused or put anything on the whole e-bike situation, because obviously it's so big now. I don't know exactly what the laws look like over there, but
it's changed, I guess, a little bit by the scene. Like from what I've heard and just seeing where sometimes we'll get to see stuff like the hotspots of where sales are, and I think it's changed fairly significantly, I guess, which is probably ease things off a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, e-bikes are becoming much more widely accepted. Like, when you first ride them and everyone thought it was cheating. And now it's like, no. I can do so much more riding with them on. So it's like, the e-bike side of everything, it seems to be so quickly changing and evolving. But yeah.
Back to the brand itself. As such a big organisation, are you guys doing much in terms of putting back into the sport, into the community? Yeah,
well, we've got soil searching, which I think you guys know a little bit about. It's something that we don't necessarily shout about, but it's like our trail advocacy program, kind of giving back to the trails and the mountain bike networks. Like, if we're selling bikes and putting more bikes on the trails, then we should probably give back and try and help those trail networks kind of be maintained and, looking forward to the future. So, that's something that is a massive focus for us. And that's globally as well. That's not just something that's in the UK. But it kind of is kept more on the down low. Like, we've done...
So how does it work, sorry?
So we support trail groups or networks. So I guess closest to here is probably the Dean Trail Volunteers, maybe.
DTV,
so we've done a few dig days with them. So they're obviously an established group already, and then we will kind of put on weekends or days or dig days or whatever, and kind of get people involved into the area. And we've had, some of them are so big you have to put a cap on them because everyone wants to get involved. Or what's really cool about it is people from the local area who maybe didn't know that group was a thing, but have seen it on like our social media, or maybe a local shop that shared it or something like that, kind of gets involved in that first dig day that we would collaborate on. And then they're like, I'm going to come back and do this every month with you when the DTV put on a dig day. So it's stuff like that, but with all different groups around the world.
Wow.
Supporting, whether that's supporting with money to help them with materials, or whether it's just trying to bring manpower and kind of actually get more people involved in it. So it works in different ways, or maybe sponsorship of a trail at a trail centre or something like that. So it works in different ways, but it's something that kind of flies under the radar slightly.
Okay.
Do you think it should fly above the radar a little bit more? Is that something that you would prefer to shout about?
I think it should fly above the radar more, but I think initially it kind of started as we didn't want it to be one of these things that was like, look how amazing we are. It was like, we're just going to do this because it's the right thing to do.
Okay.
And then obviously we had the soil searching tyres that we sold, and a percentage of those sales went to give back to those groups and in all different ways. So that's what's quite cool about it, is all different countries, it all works in different ways. So it's kind of organic.
Nice.
The past sort of 5 years in the industry has been kind of turbulent,
to say the least.
So, from a bike, from a normal person's point of view outside of the industry, sort of COVID happened, couldn't really buy a bike, impossible. Then the second-hand market went absolutely crazy. Then you couldn't buy any spares. We all thought we were going to have a break
in COVID and like get a little bit of time off, and then it was like no chance.
None of that happened. And you can get spares, and now like there's just a glut of bikes on the market. So buying a bike now is probably a great time to do it if you've got the money. Bike companies factories sort of closed down. You couldn't get sort of stock from different, suppliers. And then, you'd ordered all these and then you end up with the slump, but then you got loads of bikes and it's all sort of chaos, right? From our point of view, like,
we're seeing brands
nightmare
closing down, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
So from the industry side, from one of the bigger companies who still here, which is great. How's it been the last sort of 5 years on a business sort of point of view? It's been tricky, I presume.
Oh, it's definitely been tricky. It's been interesting couple of years to navigate, and I think every year we're like, next year it's going to be back, and then it's like, oh, it's an interesting year. But I think the one thing that we did throughout the whole thing is we didn't stop producing product. Mm-hmm. We didn't put a hold on bringing out new bikes, and it was like that was kind of our main focus, was to continue bringing out new things, and we definitely did that. Last year was
big year.
Last year was a big year, and that's been really important, just to keep kind of the innovation going and bringing out stuff. But yeah, it's definitely impacted. I think every brand could say the same, especially some that haven't made it. And yeah, we have. You see it in kind of, I guess, the numbers of, or the discounts that you see. There is product out there, but that doesn't mean that we're going to stop bringing out new things.
Okay. Does it make it a difficult decision to launch something though? Like, presumably,
it makes it more difficult when you have stock of, I guess, current stuff.
Yeah.
Because then it's, if we bring something else out, then are we going to make
old stuff redundant,
or are the discounts going to have to be so big? So it definitely changes that. But if we can kind of be smart about it and thinking into the future, like, we know when stuff is going to come, so we have to be proactive on that.
In sort of times of toughness, in sort of the automotive industry, like, money is pumped towards marketing. Like, sales are low, let's get marketing going, and so we try and generate more sales. Is that have you seen similar things in the bike world? And I don't mean, obviously you can only talk for Spesh, but I'm not trying to point at Spesh, but like, is it a tricky time to be in the marketing side of things?
More so, because it's definitely, the marketing budget is normally the first one to be hit.
Right.
But we know that is the focus. That's how we kind of get in front of people, like the race teams, etc. That is, that's still such a priority, and nothing has changed there. That continues to be, and like I said, bringing out new product, and we're still doing that, and we're still producing that content and those assets and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely not something that's going to be forgotten about, but it's definitely is impacted.
Yeah. And do you see any sort of glimmers of hope? We were talking a year ago, 18 months ago, and it was sort of like, survive 25, get through till 25, and things will start picking up. Is that something that, as an industry, as a big company, you're going to see those little shoots of growth earlier than many you'd think? Is 25 looking all right?
Please.
We hope so. Yeah, I think, there's no point putting rose-tinted glasses on. I think it's still going to be tough. Because the industry is, the way it is at the moment. But yeah, hopefully we'll get through, and 26 will be, everyone's going to be back on it. It's going to be straight back to normal. But like you said, it was so crazy with how COVID changed everything, which has continued to, I guess, impact.
Well, it's mad how many people are out there, right? Riding bikes on the trails. Anytime, if you go on a weekend, how just crammed it is.
Yeah.
And it's mad because that doesn't necessarily correlate to a healthy industry.
No.
Which is what's really sort of counterintuitive.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed we'll start to see some
definitely.
glimmers of hope soon.
Yes. And you're not going to not stop seeing products. So
okay, that's good. Well, in terms of that, there's a nice little segue there. So obviously you can't give anything away, but from your personal point of view, what do you want to see in the next sort of 5 to 10 years in terms of mountain bike tech?
Oh, that is a very big question.
Yeah. From a very small man.
Oh, you don't look small sat down.
You can't see his feet dangling off the chair.
What do I want to see from a personal perspective?
How do you want, like, what bike If you only had one bike in 5 years' time, how is it going to look? What do you want it to be? Is it a regular bike? Is it an e-bike?
Well, it's going to have to be an e-bike, isn't it? Because, come on.
Really?
But my favourite bike is the Lever SL because it rides like a normal bike, but I get that bit of help.
Mm-hmm.
So, a combination of, an analogue bike looks like an analogue bike, but with a motor and a battery, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
What we've all imagined.
Okay.
And what do you want to see for the brand? What do you envisage? What do you think would be cool to do? If you could do anything now in your role,
oh my God,
what would you love to do?
Within my role?
Yeah. Or without it?
Get more people on bikes. Young people, girls, everyone. Although there's been quite a big surge in girls getting on bikes, which is really cool. Like the free ride movement, which is amazing to see.
What do we need to do to help that as an industry?
Good. I think it's still at the level of kind of getting into riding, the accessibility is still tricky because it looks intimidating. A lot of the time it looks
because it's still male dominated.
Because it's partly, but also I think a lot of what you see from a marketing perspective and on social media and stuff like that is the extreme side.
Okay.
It's not that that's a bad thing because it's a good thing, but also there's not necessarily that kind of content of that's just inspiring and wants people to get outside and get out and enjoy mountain biking. So I think maybe that's something as brands we could look at a little bit more just to get those newer riders, and it doesn't have to just be girls, but get newer riders onto bikes that it doesn't look intimidating and scary. I think,
In your 10 years, how do you think it's changed as a female in the industry? Has it changed? Is it better?
I think it's changed a lot.
Okay.
Just seeing more females potentially in the workplace, more girls out on bikes, like it's definitely more accepted almost and encouraged, which I think is really cool. And also the like pink it and shrink it. I feel like that's done. A lot is gone, which is good. Like when I started Specialized, we had a stump jumper and then a rhyme, which is like the female version of a stump jumper. But they essentially had the same frame. They just had a bit of pink on them, almost, Yeah,
it's changed quite a lot in that regard.
Yeah, changed a lot, which I think is really good. And yeah, like I said, this kind of free ride movement with Rampage and stuff like that, and showcasing how incredible these female riders are is, amazing. Just amazing to see. That's a huge step. Finally.
Very cool.
How would you encourage more women to get into the industry? How, obviously you sort of started, I guess, in quite a traditional way and, worked in a bike shop, met some people, worked your way in and worked your way up. But
I think it's one of those things of women a lot of the time would put themselves down or think, oh no, I wouldn't be right for that. Or, you look at a job spec and there'll be like one thing that didn't necessarily suit them and they'd be like, oh, it's not right for me, maybe. But I think just go for it because brands are we're looking for more women to be involved and, hopefully making that more accessible. And I think, for women wanting to get into the industry, I would just encourage trying something that maybe isn't what you were looking for necessarily, but you never know what those opportunities are going to lead to or who you're going to meet. Like I've been so fortunate enough to have male colleagues that are so encouraging and so supportive that, have allowed me to get to kind of the position that I have, that if you told me when I joined Specialized or started working in a bike shop, I never would have believed it. I would just say, just go for it. Why not?